But where you've made a significant or taken a significant position is in relation to native title, where I think you've called for the granting of individual title deeds. The great problem with native title is that it's collective and you don't know who owns the property. Isn't that the problem in relation to native title?
Oh, my word. I mean, I think it's so interesting in it that it's never debated or never discussed. But if you were trying to advance the Aboriginal people in Australia, one of the fundamental tenets of advancing any economy anywhere in the world is providing land tenure as a basis for, if you adopt capitalism as a way forward. And you need land tenure. So, we don't have that. And I think it's the most prejudicial thing laws we've got in Australia, that you can buy a house in Brisbane, Townsville, Sydney, Melbourne. You can be, full-blown Aboriginal and you can buy a house in Sydney, Melbourne, but you can't go back to your own Aboriginal community and buy a house. You can't own a house. And that's pretty big ramifications for that, because when you're trying to get people off the grog, off the drugs, into a working life, they need to aspire to something. And I've got friends up there and in town that do aspire. They've got a job in the mines. They finally lifted themselves out of that quagmire of alcohol dependence, that sort of thing. And their first aspiration is normally buy a car or buy a house, but we deny them that privilege. And I'm proud to say my father was the first minister, I know in Queensland, perhaps in Australia, but that delivered title deeds. In Thursday Island was the first ones. They still call them the cattle leases, so that you could own your own house. And that's a starting point to advance anyone. But governments, and it's a really interesting question to ask, why governments have always denied them the pathway to own that land. And I think there's a lot of people interested in keeping them down, because if you're trying to raise them up, you would give them the building blocks to build themselves up. And to put context around that, that means Tony Chong, a bloke I know in Doomadgee, there's an Aboriginal community up here, was built around a mission. He went to loan money to buy cattle, so he had some land he had the use of, but to loan money off the bank to buy more cattle or a truck, the bank wanted tenure security. He can't get that, so he can't advance himself. He hits a point where you can never advance yourself, because banks won't lend you money unless you've got a title deed to offer that. We deny that privilege to all Aboriginal communities in Queensland.